What is up, guys? It is Quinn here, back with another fantasy football video, and today I'm going to be going through how you guys can dominate your sleeper fantasy football leagues. So I've been doing some mock drafts on sleeper, going through their fantasy football ADP, and today I'm basically going to be talking about like the best values at each position, and then also maybe like some spots to avoid certain players. Where should you target your running backs? Where should you target your wide receivers, quarterbacks, tight ends, all of that stuff. If you guys enjoy the content, do me a huge favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I also have videos talking about ESPN fantasy football and Yahoo fantasy football. So if you guys are interested in that, go check that out also. But let's just jump right into some of my favorite targets. And we're going to start it off at the running back position. So we're looking at early round running backs here. I'm going to start it off with this big three that I think I've talked about in the other two videos also. So it's Saquon Barkley, Aaron Jones, and Leonard Fournette. They're currently valued as RB11, RB12, and RB14, and they're all kind of going late second round, early third round. For me, all three of these players should be early to mid second round picks. I don't think any of these guys should be falling to the end of the second round, and I definitely don't think they should be going in the third round. And I'm going to get into it a little bit later, but basically, like half a round to a full round after these guys are being picked, the running back position just totally falls off. So these guys are going to seem like even better values when I start getting into like RB 15, 17, 18. Once I start getting into those guys, Saquon, Aaron Jones, and Fournette are going to seem like even better picks. Another player I really like going like late third round is James Conner. He's going off the board as the RB16. He's another player where you see, the other guys going in his range. You're going to be very happy with his price. For me, I think he's a player that should be going like early third round, probably at the latest, and I'd be willing to take him at the back end of the second. And then I've talked about Travis Etienne, I think, in every video. I would throw Breece Hall in here also, but I think he's kind of reasonably priced as like a 3-4 turn guy. Travis Etienne, though, is kind of positioned here as like an early fourth to mid fourth round pick, the RB21. I think the value is totally there to get like a young potential stud running back who also has just been dominating training camp so far. And so now I'm going to talk about some of the dead zone running backs. And some of these players are actually maybe even going before you think the dead zone would typically start. So starting off here with Ezekiel Elliott, I don't hate Zeke for fantasy this year, but on the sleeper platform, going at around pick 30 as the RB15, that is just way too early in my opinion. He's going to be in some sort of split with Tony Pollard, so I do not like that. We have Cam Akers going at pick 33, RB17, so like a late third round pick. Hate that. Same thing with David Montgomery going at pick 35. These are players I'm just not comfortable picking within the first three rounds. Then we have Antonio Gibson going at around pick 40. It's like an early fourth round pick. In my opinion, I don't even think I'm taking Gibson in like the sixth round. Seventh round, maybe I wouldn't even snag him there. So Gibson is just a brutal pick here. So once you get out of like that first, I guess it'd be like 2.5 rounds, the value at running back just totally tanks. Just continuing through, Dobbins and Josh Jacobs going in the fourth round, Elijah Mitchell going in the fifth round. You have CEH going at the 5-6 turn, Damian Harris going mid-sixth round. I could just go through all these guys. It really continues. Players like Kenneth Walker, way overpriced. Same thing with Singletary. You could throw some other guys like Kareem Hunt in there. Like players on other platforms that I'm kind of in on, I just can't even pallet at their current prices. So I'm attacking running backs early and often on Sleeper. I want to have at least one running back through the first three rounds because if you don't, the running back position is just going to be brutal. You're going to be passing up on really strong wide receiver options, or you're going to be, having to reach on a player that you don't like, or you're just going to be stuck with basically no running backs, especially if you're in like a typical league where it's like two running backs, two wide receivers, a flex. Like you're eventually going to run out of spots to just spam the wide receiver position. If you're playing with a ton of flexes, then I do think it kind of fits that strategy better. But I'm going after Saquon, Aaron Jones, and Fournette, and then also guys like Connor and Etienne, just because the fall off happens so quickly. And I think even if the other players were, being ranked properly, I still think those guys would be really strong picks. So now we're going to move over to the wide receiver position. And I feel like, the wide receivers are pretty appropriately priced, through like the first 2.5 rounds. But then we get to Keenan Allen here going around pick 31. I think that is too late. For me, Keenan Allen is someone who should be going at the 2-3 turn. He's not going there. Same thing with T. Higgins, who is going 3 picks after Keenan Allen. These guys are, wide receiver 11 and wide receiver 12, which I think is fair, but I think they should be right at that 2-3 turn. I really like both of those players. And then 2 guys that I also have back-to-back my rankings, Diontae Johnson and Michael Pittman. We see Diontae Johnson going mid-4th round, I guess early to mid-4th round, and then we have Michael Pittman going mid to late 4th round. I think both of these players are fair prices in like the mid-3rd, and I don't think they should be falling into the 4th round, especially the mid to late 4th. Just way too late for these 2 players. Another guy, Jalen Waddle, going off the board at the 4-5 turn. I think he's someone who should go at the 3-4 turn, a little bit after Diontae Johnson and Michael Pittman. Then we've also got DJ Moore, who kind of I've been much lower on than consensus all offseason, but he's also going at this 4-5 turn. Probably the best quarterback he's ever played with in Baker. He should be higher. And then Marquise Brown has basically been on every single kind of review I've been talking about. ESPN, he's a value. Yahoo, he's a value. I think he's also a value here on Sleeper, going as the wide receiver 23. And also, just like the other platforms, young wide receivers are definitely very valuable here on Sleeper. Some great prices here. We have Darnell Mooney going at around pick 74, the wide receiver 30. Rashad Bateman going at pick 81, wide receiver 35. For me, Mooney and Bateman are both like fringe wide receiver 2s, wide receiver 3s. And then you have guys like Devonta Smith and Elijah Moore going at pick 86 and 89. Those 2 are going off the board as the wide receiver 37 and wide receiver 38. And then my guy Sky Moore going off the board as the wide receiver 48. Just a value everywhere, on every single platform. Sky Moore is going to be a steal this year. Just very limited risk for a player who could potentially be the wide receiver 1 for the Chiefs. Now we're going to move over to the quarterback position. And one thing that became really obvious was like the elite top tier QB1s are just wildly overpriced. So right now, Josh Allen's ADP as the QB1 is pick 19, mid-second round in a 1 quarterback league. That is wild. Then you have Patrick Mahomes going at around pick 30, 31. So you're looking at like a mid-3rd round pick. Justin Herbert's going at the 3-4 turn. Like those prices are wildly inflated, but then it doesn't really continue like that. I think you have Lamar next going like 15 picks after, which I still think is high, but then some of the players that I really like at price, at least compared to the other quarterbacks, we have Kyler Murray going at around pick 58 as the QB6. So Kyler Murray late 5th round in comparison to Mahomes in the 3rd, Justin Herbert in the early 4th is crazy. Jalen Hurts going in the mid 6th round is significantly better. And then my guy Trey Lance going off the board as QB 13 in the triple-digit picks. It just makes no sense to draft Josh Allen, Mahomes, or Herbert when you can draft players like Kyler Murray or Jalen Hurts way later on. And then the final position we're going to talk about is going to be the tight ends. But to be completely honest with you, I feel like the ADP of basically every single tight end is pretty fair. You could argue George Kittle and Darren Waller are a little bit overpriced, but when you're like doing mock drafts on the platform, they're going way later on than their actual ADP. So it seems like they're being picked, at more reasonable spots anyway. So the tight end position is pretty sharp in terms of ADP in my opinion. So I don't really think there are any glaring sells or buys at that position. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. The biggest takeaways, attack those running backs in the 1st, 2nd, early to mid 3rd round, because they're totally going to fall off. And when they do fall off, all those running backs are going to get pushed way, way up, which is going to leave lots of values at wide receiver. Like I talked about all the values going in like the 4th, 5th, 6th round, and then those younger guys going like 6th, 7th, 8th round. So the value's totally there if you can go running back early, then snag a bunch of really solid wide receivers to fill out your flex spots. I feel like that's kind of like the optimal strategy here. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you enjoyed, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.